Yes, you can start, Godruma Prabhu.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavad-gita, chapter 4, as Karuna Shakti already said. No, Krishna Shakti said, right? Not Krishna, not Karuna.
Shakti was correct.
Karuna. Haribol. Thank you very much. Okay, we're reading from the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita, the text 12. This 4th chapter is called Transcendental Knowledge. I kind of prepared this lecture in German, so I have to switch now from German to English. That shouldn't be a big problem. Let's see how it goes. So first I read the translation. Kankshanta karmanang sitim yajanta iha devataha kshiprang hi manushe loke sitir bhavati karmaja. Men in this world desire success and fruitive activities, and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. There is a great misconception about the gods or demigods of this mature world, and men of less intelligence, although passing as great scholars, take these demigods to be various forms of the Supreme Lord. Actually, the demigods are not different forms of God, but they are God's different parts and parcels. God is one, and the parts and parcels are many. The Vedas say, Nitya Nityanam, God is one. Ishvara Parama Krishnaha. The Supreme God is one. Krishna and the demigods are delegated with powers to manage this mature world. These demigods are all living entities, Nityanam, with different grades of mature power. They cannot be equal to the Supreme God, Narayan, Vishnu, or Krishna. Anyone who thinks that God and the demigods are on the same level is called an atheist or Pashandi. Even the great demigods like Brahma and Shiva cannot be compared to the Supreme Lord. In fact, the Lord is worshipped by demigods such as Brahma and Shiva, Shiva Virinjini Sutnutam. Yet curiously enough, there are many human leaders who are worshipped by foolish men under the misunderstanding of anthropomorphism or zoomorphism. Ihadevataha denotes a powerful man or demigod of this mature world. But Narayan, Vishnu, or Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, does not belong to this world. He is above or transcendental to mature creation. Even Sripad Shankaracharya, the leader of the impersonalists, maintains that Narayan or Krishna is beyond this mature creation. However, foolish people, Rita Agyana, worship the demigods because they want immediate results. They get the results, but do not know that results so obtained are temporary and are meant for less intelligent persons. The intelligent person is in Krishna consciousness, and he has no need to worship the paltry demigods for some immediate temporary benefit. The demigods of this mature world, as well as their worshippers, will vanish with the annihilation of this mature world. The boons of the demigods are material and temporary. Both the mature worlds and their inhabitants, including the demigods and their worshippers, are bubbles in the cosmic ocean. In this world, however, human society is mad after temporary things such as the mature opulence of possessing land, family, and enjoyable paraphernalia. To achieve such temporary things, they worship the demigods or powerful men in human society. If a man gets some ministership in the government by worshipping a political leader, he considers that he has achieved a great boon. All of them are therefore kowtowing to the so-called leaders or big guns in order to achieve temporary boons, and they indeed achieve such things. Such foolish men are not interested in Krishna consciousness for the permanent solution to the hardships of material existence. They are all after sense enjoyment, and to get a little facility for sense enjoyment, they are attracted to worship empowered living entities known as demigods. This verse indicates that people are rarely interested in Krishna consciousness. They are mostly interested in material enjoyment, and therefore they worship some powerful living entity. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Garamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Vansha Kalpa Tiruvascha Kripa Sinuevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Vishnu Hare Krishna Stai Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamini, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pascharya Desha. I just again read the verse. Men in this world desire success and fruit of activities, and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world. So, yeah, this verse is quite good covered with lectures. You can find them on the web. I did that in advance just to get some preparation for this topic. And Prabhupada talked about it at least 3 times in different places in the world. Also lengthy. He included also the 12th and the 13th words at some stage, and also in his lectures, some of them I listened to. He's also including other verses before and after, and yeah, that means it's some. For him, there was a lot of substance because he mostly spoke in India about this verse, and yeah, it's about demigod worship and how it is not so useful. Krishna is not so much into Hinduism. We can see he is not so much inspired by the demigod worship and its results. The nature of demigod worship is, yeah, we heard it now. It's temporary, and it's part of this world, and it's actually not a big deal to be a demigod. Also, we as jivas can become demigods. So it's not a big deal. It's not a big thing to have a lot of power as a demigod. It's rather, yeah, it's what do you say? It's ridiculous if you see how long Brahma lives and how many lifetimes can just pass within a moment of Brahma. And so it's just a tiny little life, actually, the life of a demigod, although they live 10,000 times longer than we and can enjoy much better. But what is also said here is that there's this misconception of people thinking that the demigods are different manifestations of God, and you can just choose which kind of manifestation you like to worship, and that's all fine. But Prabhupada makes it very clear that this is not so. The demigods are parts and parcels of Krishna, actually, as we are. And it's a great offense to worship them with the idea to also worship Krishna. And we know the Bhagavad-gita talks also before the verse just yata mang prapadyante tangstataiva bhajamyaham is talking about how everyone in this mature world at some stage surrenders to Krishna. And in the verse afterwards, there's also it's also mentioned that how we are all determined and manipulated by material nature, and we are living under the modes of material nature. And the Vedic system knows the varnas and the four castes, basically, where we can situate ourselves. And according to our position in the varna ashram system, the Vedas also give us specific possibilities how we can achieve specific results and powers. So a big part of the Vedas, actually the biggest part, is dealing with this topic of fruitive work. So it is actually not it's not a big miracle that this is a big topic in so-called Hindu society and also in India, because the Vedas are basically or mostly dealing with the topic of how we can elevate ourselves materially. So it depends on what kind of desires we have. We can choose what kind of boons we want to have, and what kind of goals we want to achieve. And the Vedas give a lot of yagyas for that. They give specific tools at hand so that we can achieve our material goals. And we have like Hiranyakashipu, for example. He's a very prominent example of someone who achieved quite a lot through his yagyas. He was worshipping Brahma, and he wanted to, even at some stage, he became so powerful that it became a problem. And but just in the material world, actually, it's not a spiritual problem to become extremely powerful because it's so limited. And also other people like Vidrasudra, other what do you say, demons, Vidrasura, he worshipped Shiva, and Shiva is known as Ashutosh, someone who is very easily satisfied. So you can, as soon as you satisfy Shiva, you get a lot of boons, you get a lot of opulence, actually. And also Yudhishthira at some stage asked Krishna, why is that so? Why? What's the difference between, why is the difference so big between someone who worships Krishna and someone who worships Shiva? Because we see these demons, they get a lot of power, they get a lot of opulence through worshipping Shiva. And the Bhaktas, or the worshippers of Vishnu or Krishna, most of them are quite poor, or don't have so many material opulences. And that's just, it's actually not really it looks like a boon, it looks like a good thing to become opulent, but actually it's not, because what it makes is it's just the illusion becomes thicker that this material world is somehow enjoyable and that we can make it here. So it may look a little bit unfair, but actually it's in the long run it's much more valuable to get this knowledge that this material world is actually of no use, and enjoyment is an illusion. So a real bhakta or bhakti you can see only in connection to Krishna, actually. Prabhupada says you cannot have bhakti for your wife or for your husband. You cannot have bhakti for any demigod. That's not possible. So bhakti is always a term which is used in connection to the worship of Krishna and a loving relationship we have with Krishna. So a devotee is never interested in this kind of results, like being opulent, being powerful, having a long life, having nice children, having a nice partner, whatever you can imagine as a material opulence. A bhakta is not really interested in that, because he knows it's all flickering, it's all temporary, it doesn't have really a big meaning, and therefore he he's just not interested in it. He doesn't have any attachments. He knows he's just not interested in these kind of things because he has a higher taste, and he has a taste of bhakti actually, and that in bhakti is everything is included. If you have bhakti, you have everything in this world, and because it's just our nature. I was the other day, there was a devotee, and she was excusing herself that she was calling her newborn baby a Vaishnava, and she said because actually a Vaishnava is something very elevated, and you cannot take this so lightly just to call anyone a Vaishnava. And I thought, yeah, maybe that's one way to look at it. But I also, my understanding of the scriptures is that every one of us is a Vaishnava. Also, a newborn baby is a Vaishnava, or just a spider or a plant. Every one of us, that's our nature. That's our original position to be Vaishnavas. And at the moment, everyone who is living in the mature world is an illusion to some extent, and we are wanting to become free of this illusion. We want to become cleansed and purified. And most of us in the mature world are not interested in the purification process. And you could say, okay, there are no Vaishnavas. And that's one angle to look at it. That's very true, but it's also not true because they're just forgotten that they are Vaishnavas, and they're just turned away from Krishna, which doesn't mean that they are not Vaishnavas anymore, because we are eternal servants of Krishna. And so doing something for Krishna means doing something in Bhakti Yoga is not only eternal, that not only has an eternal benefit and is very blissful and satisfies us, it's just also our nature to do something for Krishna and to worship Krishna, to just think about how we can satisfy Krishna without any motive, without the motive of, okay, what is in there for me? So a devotee knows that. And you see in the mature world also, which is, nowadays you can see this in this very special times now. We meet now in a very artificial way. In this, everyone has his box, and some of us, they are sitting together in a room, which is very nice and very natural to meet in person. But many of us, we cannot really meet each other, and we have this exchange now via this media, and that's also fine. But we can see in this special circumstances is that if you want to make it in this world, you have to bribe the right people. You have to you know the right people, and sometimes you even have to know someone who is not already in power, but maybe this person will become or will have power in the future. So it's good to know the right people in order to gain the good things and to somehow make it. And in the smaller, that's maybe demigod worship for us in the West is maybe not such a close thing, or not so common. But we do it in a different way. We just go to most of us, we like to have good bosses, and we want to, for this reason, we treat our bosses nicely so that they will give us enough money, and they will give us a secure job and everything. So even if we are in a higher position in society, we know, and many stories are there about how society actually works. It's not that you follow the rules and then you get what you are meant to get. It's no, you have to know the right people, and the unofficial ways are much more efficient. So that's the same also with demigod worship, and with becoming, yeah, so-called successful. But Prabhupada says that this is also this kind of results. They are prayer. Yeah, there's Shreya and prayer, and Shreya is for the ultimate benefit. If you do something in with a goal of actually coming closer to Krishna, that's Shreya. And prayer is just for like a child. A child wants to just enjoy, wants to play, and wants always everything immediately. And this is basically the material. What do you say? The material illness is that we want immediate enjoyment, and we can achieve that if we know the right people and if we satisfy the right people. But we also have to give it up. So what's actually the use? I mean, that's a big question. What's the use of doing something which doesn't have any real lasting benefit? It's just a waste of time, waste of energy, waste of resources, and our resources are very limited. It's also another thing is that sometimes these things which seem to be so attractive and so worthwhile to be achieved, they are very sweet in the beginning and very bitter in the end. So that's also something we cannot really. That's the part of the nature of this material world is there is no real enjoyment without pain. And even if there is enjoyment, then you have to undergo some suffering before or after. So, but bhakti is different. Bhakti is always nice. We can always seek shelter in Krishna. We can always, in any circumstance, we can find that Krishna is there for us and gives us whatever we need. And there are actually many verses about that, how mainly in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but also in other Puranas, how bhakti is, or devotional service, Prabhupada says, devotional service is in so many ways so beneficial and makes us just happy. But I don't think it makes much sense to quote them all now. We see in the second chapter of the first canto, there are a few verses about that, and one of the most prominent now, maybe one of the verses which are now suitable to quote is where is it? I have to see if I can find it. Here it is. Nasta prayev shapadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. That's one of the verses Prabhupada also in one of his lectures about this verse now quotes, and he talks about it, and he has a very nice conclusion. So the whole verse is it's the 18th verse of the second chapter of the first canto, and it's Nashta prayesha padreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavat-yuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. The translation is, by regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Loving service under the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So, Prabhupada says that this is actually it's a crucial point now in in the understanding of bhakti is that we don't have to. It's a simple process actually. If we just listen to the Bhagavat, if we listen to the self-realized personality, which knows Krishna, and we can always turn to Prabhupada. Actually, we can always read his books, listen to his lectures, listen to his bhajans, and there we will find, or we have this association, which is bringing us this result, this Shreya actually, this eternal result or this eternal benefit of becoming self-realized and getting to know Krishna. And the only thing we have to do is just to listen. And if we do that, then the rest will come. It's actually that simple. And I found that quite striking, because most of the things we try to achieve in this material world, which is another thing we have to take into consideration living here, is that it's everything you want to achieve is quite tricky to achieve. It's not, there's not a, if most of us, we have, if you want to achieve anything in this world, we have to undergo a specific process, and only if we undergo this process completely and we made the yajna, then we will achieve our goal. That what I just already mentioned. You cannot have enjoyment without undergoing some kind of pain. There's no gain without pain. But in the spiritual world, or with Krishna, it's not like that. It's not that we can only make spiritual process if we suffer. That's nonsense. That's not how Krishna works. Krishna has a very nice personality, so he makes us also, or he makes it for us also a nice process. He gives us prasadam, he gives us nice association, he gives us the bliss of kirtan and the association of the devotees. And so the only thing we have to do is to stick to it. And so we can just listen to Prabhupada, we can discuss what Prabhupada talks about, and we can at the same time also just practice bhakti yoga. We chant our rounds, we chant together, and we just try to get to know Krishna and understand who Krishna is. And the more we do that, the more we can become free from this idea that we can achieve anything in this material world, or something in this material world, or that we have to achieve something in this material world. And I think that's almost everything I can say about this so far. At least that's what I prepared for. So if there is something you want to add or subtract, it's now your turn.
I can see there are some comments in the chat box. Is it just one? Actually, it's from Deep Tanshu. Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the lecture. Can you please also comment on slightly less gross sense enjoyments or fruitive activities that Mayavadis or impersonalists indulge in? Example, seeking peace or merging with Brahman, and how pure devotees are different, or how pure bhakti or devotional service is different.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I mean, this I already touched a little bit on it, because it's all sense gratification to want something for oneself. That's a big difference. If you want to achieve something for yourself, that cannot be bhakti. And you mentioned the Mayavadis, and the Mayavadis you can also take the Brahmavadis, or anyone who wants to just merge and want to have peace. The Buddhists, they want to just live in a cave and be peaceful. So the center is yourself. It's all about you. I mean, or me. I want to have this. I want to have that. But bhakti, the main thing about bhakti is about the center is Krishna. We turn towards Krishna and his devotees and try to satisfy them, and through this we get the highest benefit and also the highest satisfaction. And you see, with Prabhupada says that the Mayavadis, if they are really serious, they may achieve to merge into Brahman and to be in this situation where they are satisfied and there's no disturbance. But Prabhupada says that at some stage it becomes a little bit boring if everything is just peaceful, and then they come back. They come back to the material world. They come back to actually also to Bhumi Loka or Bhurloka or whatever, wherever they can just have an exchange with people. And if they have good karma, they come back, and then they just build hospitals, because that gives the idea, or that gives the feeling of being generous, and then they can enjoy that. But it's all about them. The center is always they themselves, and that's not going to work. That's not what really satisfies the soul. The soul is always inspired to do something for Krishna and his devotees. And I mean, you say subtleties. One subtlety is, okay, I want to become selfless. That means I work for others, like Mother Teresa or something. She was only she was feeding the poor and gave actually chicken to kids and gave them heavy karma. But anyway, if you want to do something for others, then you have to see what's the benefit. And if you just feed them, you benefit their body. But if you really want to benefit them, then you give them spiritual knowledge about how they are not the body, and how they are a spiritual soul, which is part and parcel of Krishna and eternal, full of blissed knowledge. And if we do that, then that's perfect. There we can channel our propensity to wanting to do something for others and being selfless, because that's actually real selflessness and eternal. It brings eternal benefit if we connect everything to the spiritual world, to the abode of Krishna and his devotees. Is that okay so far?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
So if anyone else has a question, they can unmute themselves and ask a question. Or I can see there is, how many people? 2 people in this in our audience, in our temple here in Berlin, who would like to ask a question. Mahaman.
Hey,
Godruma. Nice
Hey,
surprise
Hare
to see you here.
nice to see you, Prabhu.
I would like to ask, if I understood you correct, you made the point that if we want to achieve something in this world, it's not good actually for our spiritual lives, and we are getting more entangled. I just repeated with my words. And I want to ask, and I also to comment, that in our days, actually, I think many people in this world, they have really to suffer, that they can support their families or themselves. And I think this is even more worst, and they cannot concentrate on spiritual life, because they have always to think about the money and how they can survive. And for example, if everything is actually nice, but still you understand that it's just temporary, and you should focus on Krishna, this is a real shelter, but you don't have to worry so much about these things. maybe this would be better. Also my comment and question at the same time. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I mean, we are talking not about basic things. It's not an opulence to have a decent house and decent living conditions, maybe even a car and a phone and all these things which are basically, I mean, which are, you can say, basic needs nowadays. Even Wi-Fi is considered being a basic need. And having enough to eat, having these basic things. It's not actually an opulence. That's just the minimum we need to perform bhakti or to perform anything. And I think for devotees, it's very important to cooperate with each other and to make mature life as easy as possible. That means if you struggle earning enough money, then it's maybe good to move into a community with other devotees where we can help each other, even materially. I mean, what to speak about the spiritual benefit, but obviously it's necessary for anyone who wants to perform bhakti that the basic needs are covered. And it doesn't make sense to in order to just being independent and having one's own livelihood and own household, that you have to struggle so hard. I mean, there most probably there are a lot of devotees out there which have a very difficult time, and we have to find ways how to help them, and we have to just help each other. That's what we need to do. And I think also times of needs is also are times of a chance to gain something. For example, now I was talking because I was interested in the I was living on farms in my Krishna conscious past, and also before I met the devotees, I was somehow always in touch with farm life. And now with knowing Prabhupada's teachings, it's just natural to think about cow protection and to having cows. And this was one of the topics I was thinking about, and I was talking to a devotee who was very experienced in this field, and we came to the point of the discussion where it became clear that in order to really have proper cow protection in our society, we need healthy communities, and we need to move together and just having villages again, actually, because that's what cows need. And also children, actually, and also older people, they need villages, and I mean basically mainly a community which is helping them, and they give something back too. But and I asked this senior devotee, okay, when will this happen? Because it doesn't seem that it seems like it will take ages until devotees will be able to start that. And he said it will come when devotees are forced to. And I mean it's a harsh thing, but I can understand that we, and also myself, we only do things when we need to, when there's this necessity of really changing something. Otherwise we cannot really make it. And maybe these times where we are where it's difficult and we have to even struggle to cover the basic needs of our livelihood are chances to grow as a community, and establish communities on the land, which is desperately necessary, but also communities within the city. So I think that would be extremely helpful.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
So there's another question.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhuji. So, as you have said that all the demigods, they are also servant of Lord Krishna, right, Prabhuji? So,
Yes.
so when basically in India, in Bangladesh, there are lot of people, they are worshipping lot of demigods, and from the next Friday, it's gonna be like Durga Puja. So yeah, it's like the biggest festival in Bengal right now. So my question is that all those people who are worshipping demigods, somehow or rather, they are trying to worship the servants of the Lord. So is it possible for them, for those people, to come in their next life as a devotee of Krishna? That's all. Thank you for this.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of Vedic culture is that's actually all yeah, it's meant to achieve the ultimate goal of Krishna consciousness, and but we have to see that it depends. I mean, you can also see. I mean, at least they are worshipping someone, you could say. In the West, no one is worshipping anything or anyone. It's all about the ego, and it's not about worship. It's about being being God yourself and being the supreme yourself. That's the Western mentality. That's actually really harsh materialism. So the good thing about demigod worship is the worship part, and but it's all about their consciousness. If the consciousness is okay, I worship Durga because she is a servant of Krishna, then yeah, then it's different. But I don't think any one of these Durga worshippers is really interested in Krishna. Otherwise, they can worship Krishna immediately. But because they know it's Hari, and Hari takes everything away, they are afraid of that, and they don't want to lose anything. So they worship just the right people, they think, in order to gain material strength and not losing anything. So I'm actually not so sure about the outcome of that. I have to be honest. I don't know. Maybe someone of you, of the maybe more versed devotees, can help me there. If there is a verse in the scriptures who says what happens to the demigods, it's actually written in the Bhagavad-gita, and it's, as far as I know, it's all according to our mentality at the time of death, at the moment of death. And if our consciousness is on the level of Durga, then we will achieve Durga, or we will achieve the lower regions of the mature world, because she is still in the mature world. And so depending on our consciousness at the time of death, that's where we will end up. And as far as I know, Durga worship can be quite ghastly. So yeah, in the end, we will end up maybe in very ghastly circumstances. But I would have to see, I would have to study a little bit until I find the right verses to come up with it. Maybe someone of you already has that. I don't know.
I think there is a statement somewhere in the Ishopanishad, but I don't know if it's a verse or a purport. I just remember I have a very faint memory that there is some statement that those who worship the demigods will actually, yeah, probably go to the lower realms or the lower planets of the universe. So I'm not sure where exactly it is, but somewhere in the Ishopanishad.
Krishna says also in the Bhagavad-gita, those who worship,
Yeah.
demigods goes to them, who worships goes to those, and who worships him, who goes to him.
I remember this as well. I want to say it also.
definitely in different places there are different statements in relation to demigod worship, and in our scriptures they are mostly not very favorable. It's not not necessarily encouraged, let's put it like that. So if anyone else has a question, they can go ahead and unmute themselves and ask the question, or if you're too shy, you can quickly write something into the chat box.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I have a question, like a follow-up question about this demigod theory. And for me, I think when someone is praying to God, it's like more like praying towards some super soul, some super perfect soul, which we call God. So if we call that super soul that God, if we call that Krishna or Shiva or Ganesha or any other name, how does that even matter? Because for me, it's more like we're worshipping a super soul, and which name we're giving, how does that play a matter? Maybe that super soul in their realm, they don't even use the name. So how does it matter to them if we call them with the name of Krishna or Ganesha or whatever? Like how to differentiate? For me, it's, if you talk about these souls kind of thing, it's too difficult for me to differentiate between Krishna and Ganesha, because for me they're both super souls. So how can I say that I name the super soul as Krishna or I name it as Ganesha? Like how would this differentiation work? If I know it's not so nicely formulated, but I don't know how to explain the question better.
Yeah, I mean, you have to see that there is within or amongst all the souls which are existing, there's a supreme soul. There's only one supreme soul, and this one supreme soul is Krishna. And it's not that we call this personality Krishna; it's that Krishna himself is talking to us. In the Bhagavad-gita, he's talking to Arjuna, and he's describing himself. He's explaining who he is. He's explaining what we can do to worship him, to please him, and why it is necessary. And it's not that we make something up. It's just that we listen to the right source, and the source is Krishna himself. And Krishna also has, I mean, many pastimes. We call it pastimes, or things which happened with Krishna in the past, you can say also, and where it's very clear that Krishna is supreme, that Krishna is the supreme personality, because as soon as Krishna was born, he killed amazing demigods. He was able to lift Govardhan Hill, for example. He in his talk to Arjuna, he shows him the universal form. And when he was in Dwarka, he married 16,108 wives at the same time. So these are extraordinary feats. Who can do that other than one person? You can only do one personality who can do that, and that's Krishna. And that you can find in the Vedic scriptures. You can just read them and see who Krishna is. And then it becomes very obvious and very clear that it makes sense to worship Krishna, because he's so extraordinary. He's such a supreme being that there's no chance that someone can be bigger than him. And other personalities, like we're talking now about demigods. Demigods are not actually gods. I mean, they are very small gods, but they are just ministers, you could say, or ministers of Krishna. They help him, but it's not that Krishna needs them. It's just that they have this desire to do something in the material world. They have their own selfish desires, and Krishna fulfills them. And for this reason, they are in the position they are. But it's not that they are really important for Krishna. In one sense, in another sense, everyone is important for Krishna, because Krishna loves us. That's the main thing to know about Krishna, is that he is the supreme lover, and he's the supreme nice person. And if we know all this, and I can highly recommend to get to know Krishna better, for example, in reading Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead from Srila Prabhupada. It's the Krishna book, we call it, and there you read it's a very nice chapters. They are not so long. Maybe it takes 15 to 20 minutes to read one chapter average, and it's a very good idea to just before we go to sleep we can read one of the chapters, and there we can get to know Krishna very nicely, and we can fall in love with Krishna and get this realization how much Krishna is really. I mean, it's so clear that we have to accept him as supreme, and this helps a lot to just read about him and get to know Krishna. And then this question you just asked becomes it's just solved. The problem is solved because this other personalities we consider to be so great become very tiny, just as this example given of the glowworm. If the glowworm at night seems to be very impressive, but if the glowworm at night in the daytime is just ridiculous. There's the sun, and the sun is just so bright that the glowworm is not interesting anymore. And Krishna is always, or many times, is compared to the sun. And he shines, he's just so bright. It's also because Karuna Shakti, he was mentioning the Ishopanishad. In the Ishopanishad, there is this statement of how Krishna is so bright and so strongly shining that devotees are praying he may just take away the brightness because they cannot see them. And that's our prayer. We want to see Krishna as the person and not only the light.
Okay, I understood that pretty well. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribol.
So while you were answering that question, I had a quick look into the Ishopanishad. The mantra that I refer to is the 12th mantra, and it says the worshippers of the demigods enter into the dark realm of ignorance, and much more so the worshippers of the impersonal absolute. So there you have it.
That's very clear, crystal clear. Now we have that's very nice that we can refer everything to the scriptures. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
So if there's any other question or anyone else wants to ask a question, unmute yourselves and say something. So I don't see any question. You have a last chance. Wave into the camera and make a sign that you want to ask something. Otherwise, we shall conclude this evening with a brief darshan of our deities.
Jai.
So thank you to all of you out there on the internet, all over the world, in northeastern Germany, in Norway, and in wherever you are, Italy. Thank you very much. We hope to see you again. And also our thanks goes to you, Godruma Prabhu, for giving this lecture and answering the questions in such a competent way. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, thank you also very much.